Next mod for the Integra, we're going to be installing this baffled oil pan by Mugen. They actually sell this. I got it from JHP, and it's not too bad. I think this was like $300 something or so, but you know, it's totally worth it if you're going to be tracking the cars. So here it is. Oh, and the gasket I'm using, this is actually a Felpro. I like the Felpro because it's rigid, it's got an aluminum core, and it doesn't crush like the OEM. The OEM one's super wonky. So first step, we're gonna be using Honda Bond again in these corners right here between the two castings. This is the oil pump, this is the block, and right here you can see there's a little line, and line right there. And that's the only spot that you need to put silicone, okay? So don't get crazy with silicone on the whole mating surface. I see people put silicone all the way around. Funny enough, this engine was serviced in Japan, and whoever the tech was just put silicone throughout the whole thing. And here's why. They're using the OEM gasket. This is why I don't use the OEM gasket, because the OEM gasket sucks. It's like flimsy, and it's prone to leaking if you don't torque everything just right, okay? And the Felpro, it's bulletproof. I've used it on the LS, it's literally on the Integra right now, and I've never had a problem. So let me give you a quick close-up. I'm not sure if you guys can actually see the aluminum piece on here. See that right there? That collar prevents this thing from crushing like crazy. So I know you guys can't see what the heck I'm doing, but I'm just lining this up perfectly. If you're under the car, you want to make sure that you line this up. This actually comes with a little tool to align everything, but it's unnecessary since this is on the table. So I'm just gonna slide this guy. The baffled friggin' pan is so awesome, but it's tricky to fit because it'll actually touch certain things if you're not careful. All right, there you go. Now you might be curious where my studs are. I took off the studs. I prefer using just straight bolts. You can use whatever stud you want. I'm just using brand new bolts right here. These are M6 1.0 by 20 millimeters. So let's start off right here. Okay, I'm not tightening these down yet. Then we're gonna go from bolt 1 clockwise. All right, so there you go. There. I have the OEM manual sitting behind the camera, and this is exactly what they say to do. So I'm just following. Okay. It's crazy how low torque these bolts are. Okay. Let's go around. Next, get your favorite torque wrench. This is my snap-on right here. It's digital. Okay, so that is it, boys. Super easy to do an oil pan gasket off the car. On the car, it sucks because you're upside down. The OEM gasket is not rigid. It's just a loose gasket. Looks like a freaking rubber band, and you have to fight that when you're upside down, and that's why I prefer the Felpro one, because it's got a rigid core and it's got the collar that you can't really over torque. I mean, you could, but not really. And if you guys are curious, if you really need a fancy torque wrench, not really. You can get a pretty decent, affordable one from Sunex or other brands. I just like my Snap-on because I've had it for a while and it's bulletproof. It's digital and it's got all sorts of fancy features that I've always wanted. I hate buying cheap torque wrenches because sometimes I'm like second guessing myself. Like I did some internal work in here that I need like precise numbers, and sometimes cheap torque wrenches aren't really that accurate. All right, you can hand tighten this. Yes, you could, but unless you're really good with your hand torque wrench, I would just use a real torque wrench. Some people get away with it, especially with a Felpro gasket. It's easier to kind of cheat this, but with a factory one, you can crush that gasket and it'll actually slip right out in the middle. All right, so there you go. This is my Mugen oil pan. This is actually baffled, and it looks exactly like the factory one, just hella expensive with another plate inside.